want to take the next 15 minutes, 45 minutes now. I want to take the next 45 minutes to demonstrate just a few of the core features of CAP Node.js runtime, specifically because I'm a JavaScript person rather than a Java person, your choice and everything. The features for local development. Some we already may know, others we might have heard of. So let's just get on with that thing. So here I've got a little app. Okay, so all I've got here, if you're not familiar with CAP, it'll be fine. I've got basically a DB directory with a schema.cds. In fact, let's go into the thing and have a look at it. Let's have a look at the service definition. So this is in CDS, and I've got a service definition here, a main service, and that's got a couple of entities, which are projections on entities in this at the schema level. In fact, let me go across to here and go there. Let's go to the schema. Okay, so we've got books and authors, classic bookshop. Who doesn't love bookshop? Look, bookshops is the new SFlight, right? So if I go back now, we can see that we've got a list of books and we've got book costs, right? The first and possibly the most obvious and the most important aspect or feature of CAP Node.js is CDS Watch. How many people know about CDS Watch? CDS Watch, okay, well, maybe 1/3, sorry. CDS Watch is this amazing affordance. If I run CDS Watch, it will start a server, okay? There's tons of output, and if you were here yesterday, that will be like music to your eyes now, because we all know what all of that means. So now we're running a server, okay, which is fine. Let's go to the browser and say, well, localhost 4004, we got something served there. We don't actually have any data, but I'll come back to that in a second, okay, for books. Now, if I were, for example, to want to iterate and make a change, okay, so I'm over here in my service definition, and I'm going to add a path, for example. So I'm going to say insert path and a path annotation, just to sort of shorten the URL of the service. So down here you can see it's being served at the moment /odata/v4/main. As soon as I save that, bang, the server restarts and I go across to here. And now if I refresh, it's done, it's fixed, it's changed. Okay, now that's just one example. Okay, I can change CDS, I can change more or less anything and everything. If I'm building a handler, for example, if as soon as I change some JavaScript, the reload will happen on the CAP server, and also there are reload mechanisms between the browser and the CAP server as well. So depending on where you are, it will refresh what's showing in your browser as well. I mean, I could end the talk here and say, right, okay, off you go, folks. That's all you need to have a brilliant developer experience with CAP. But there's more, okay? So CDS Watch is just really the first part. Now, one of the things we saw over here is that as soon as I switch back from the big white background to the black background, that changes. It's like whoosh, quite distracting. It's quite good. So as what we did see here, move that across a bit so it's sort of not wrapping around, is this thing. Connect to DB SQLite URL memory init from blah 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 .csv. Now again, if you were here yesterday at the code jam, you'll know what all that means. If you're not, that's also fine. But join the code jam next time. Another affordance for rapid developer experience. Rapid developer experience, that's not quite the right phrase, but you know what I mean. For rapid developer enjoyment of the experience is loading of initial data from CSV. Who doesn't like CSV, right? It's flat. You know, it's from the 1970s. You know, we know where we are. I once was working on a project, this is a digression now, working on a project, an integration project at a large pharmaceutical, and the integration architect there said you can do whatever you want for integration as long as it's CSVs and FTP. That was last year. No, it wasn't last year. It was like 20 years ago. Anyway, so CSVs, amazing. You can see here it's automatically loading CSV files that it finds into the appropriate entities, okay, into the appropriate tables. We're using an in-memory version of SQLite. How many people use SQLite? How many people think SQLite is just a toy database? Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I'll let you off because you were insulting me, which is really nice. I like that. So it's probably the most deployed database in production in the world. You know, it's on here, for goodness. It's probably in that little display thing. I don't even know what it is. It's probably in there as well, right? It's everywhere. And it has, thanks to the database service layer within CAP, loads and loads of facilities, just like its grown-up siblings, like H2, Postgres, HANA, and so on. Okay, so we'll have a little bit of a look at that. But before we do, one of the really cool things, I don't know where Gregor is, but he's probably sort of eating breakfast over there. But basically, we had a conversation yesterday where not only is CSV an affordance, an accepted format, but we can also say, I've got, for example, over here, another server running, for example, if I go over here, I've got a backup service because I couldn't think of any other name. I've got my books. Okay, so now in fact, let's go into the CDS REPL and run the local service. I can say select dot from authors, and I can wait that. And we got data, we got authors data. But if I do the same thing for books, why have we got books here? Oh, I mean, am I in the wrong thing? I'm in the backup service. That's why. That's why. You fool, DJ. Here we go. Let's do this over here. Let's go down here. Oh, here we go. Ooh, hello. Hello, welcome. Admit anybody. I don't care what's going on. CDS REPL -R. Run this thing here. If I say await, select from authors, we've got authors, but we don't have books. Okay, no books. So let's grab books really conveniently because they're being served from another service in JSON, okay, because JSON's the future, obviously. So I can say, for example, here, let's go out of here and say curl, because, you know, curl, localhost, lolcat, localhost, put it at the top and zoom in a bit, 4004, what is it, OData v4 backup books. So that's going to pull that service from the backup service, okay? Thank you very much. Just testing. Well done, whoever said that. Amazing. Backup books, what's it called? Oh, 4006. It's running on 4006. Too many ports, too many ports. There's the books, okay? Can you tell I've not really prepared this? No, I'm just kidding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste that into, well, let's have a look at that. That's better. That's a bit better. We can see there we've got the books. The data that we want is in value. So why don't we say this? Let's say jq.value and write it to the data directory bookshopbooks.json. All of a sudden, we have, where are we? Where are we? Are we running there? Let's see. CDS watch, and no, it's npm start. Where are the books gone? Where are the books gone? Let's have a look. DB, data, books, bookshop. Oh, book. That was a deliberate mistake. Nobody said anything. Move DB, data, book, SAP Capire, bookshop, book to DB. Let's run that. Let's run that CDS watch over here so we can see it change. DB data bookshop, what is it? SAP Capire, bookshop, books, plural.json. And hopefully on the left-hand side, we should see it change. And now we have the books. Okay, fine. So we've got a combination of bringing JSON in from somewhere else, banging it into a file, the server restarts, and we've now got, for example, over here, we've got list of books, and now it shows the books. Okay, fine. Is SQLite a toy database? No, because it has many of the affordances for queries, which in CAP are first-class citizens. So let's try one of those things out. So if we go, for example, to the REPL again, CDS REPL, and let's run the current project, let's zoom that in. We could say, for example, await select from books. Now we've got some data. Okay, but facilities in SQL or facilities in CQ L, CDS query language, for example, like infix filtering, like path expressions that are also available in SQLite. So if we're using SQLite for the quick turnaround development, we're not losing any query features. Okay, so let's try one of those. Let's say, oh yes, Gregor Wolf, go away. So we deny Gregor Wolf? Or you can't even see what I'm seeing here. Oh. Select from books. Why don't we say here, select from books, author. In fact, let's look at authors first. Authors, there. We've got date of birth. So why don't we say here, select from books, author, where, here's an infix filter supported by SQL out of the box through the CapJS databases. Date of birth, like, let's go for the 19th century authors, there, like that. That's pretty cool, but we can also say, for example, name as author, and even book.title as work or novel or whatever, right? Let's run that. So using SQLite in this rapid local development sort of tight turnaround loop doesn't prevent us from using all the features we have at our disposal from a query perspective. Right, okay, so where are we? Deployed that. Oh yeah, okay, so fine. What we can also do, let's go here again. We're running in memory at the moment, so if I restart the server, any changes to the database are going to be refreshed. So let's deploy that to SQLite as a file. Okay, so we can say CDS deploy to SQLite. Okay, in the past, let's just move that over a bit. In the past, that would update the package JSON to record the fact that it's now in a file, but it doesn't do that. So let's do that now. So if we edit package JSON to say to CDS, we are now requiring SQLite, but the default then, if we say we're requiring SQLite, is to use the database called, by default, convention of configuration, db.SQLite. Now, I hate editing JSON, so I'm going to edit it as YAML and get recompilation. Because I wrote the script. I wrote the script on Thursday on the plane because I was sick and tired of getting the JSON wrong. So that if I edit package JSON, I can say CDS requires DB kind SQLite. Look at that. How good is that? Bash forever, right? Okay, perfect. So we now got that, and notice that it's restarted. Let's move that over there again. Up here, we can now see it's connected to DB SQLite. How much time have we got? Quarter of an hour. Okay, fine. Well, I was going to do a change to SQLite using, for example, using this thing here. We've got access at the command line to all the select star from SQLite schema, for example. That'll show you that instead. What is it? Anyway, I can't remember what it was. I mean, why don't we do this? If we've got this here, we've got the book costs. We could say, for example, let's change the price. So updates, SAP. What is it called? Update. SAP. Going on. Oh, did I not do it? SQLite schema. There we go. Oh, I wasn't in the right file. So I've already got this here, so I'll just save a bit of time. Update SAP cap hire bookshop book set price equals 999, where ID is 201, so we can actually manipulate the database because it's local there, and then the price is updated. That's pretty cool as well, I think as well. I know it's only small examples, but it grows up to be a huge thing. Now, one more thing about SQLite, or shall I move on? I think what we'll do is we'll move on to mocking, because we've only got 15 minutes left. One of the problems, one of the challenges for developers when building out applications with CAP properly is that real life gnarly stuff like authorizations and authentications sort of get in the way. And remote services, for example, get in the way as well, because you've got to connect to the remote services, you've got to set up all these connections, BTP destinations, whatever, and authentication. Well, you've got to connect to some sort of XSUAA or IS service. You've got to do all that sort of horrible, painful stuff. However, if in doubt, mock it. I just made that phrase up, but basically that phrase sort of describes another philosophy and affordance from CAP, local development, which is basically you can mock things. So what I want to do is just explore that a little bit. We did some mocking of remote services yesterday. So instead today, for those who were here yesterday, I'll show a bit of mocking of the authentication and authorization. We touched on this yesterday a little bit, but let's just do something a bit different. Okay, so what I've got here is, let's just move that back over again. If I edit the service there, now if I, for example, here say curl local host 4004, what is it? Main book costs. Okay, that works. Okay, I get the response back because there's no authentication, there's no authorization, it's a free for all. If I were, for example, to add an annotation like requires authenticated user, which is like a pseudo role. Okay, there are certain roles that you can define yourself, of course, which makes sense, but there are also sort of certain roles like authenticated user that are pseudo that CAP supplies sort of internally. That's better. So let me just go across to here and just make sure that's still, there we go, perfect. So now, as soon as I save that, CDS Watch will restart and hopefully this won't work anymore. Unauthorized. Now, what does that, let's just have a bit more information. -I says, give us the response headers. We get a 401 unauthorized. Now, if I had a bit more time, I'd do a bit of a quiz, you know, what HTTP status codes and everything, 401 versus 403. But 401 means basically you haven't authenticated, okay, which is exactly what I'm requiring here for the whole service. Now, if I were to say CDS env get requires.auth, and I'm going to pipe it into JL, which allows us to sort of scroll up and down, we can see that built in to CAP are some random users. Where they came up with these names from, I don't know. Alice, Bob, Carol, Dave, A, B, C, D, I suppose, E, F, and then me. Okay, so you know it goes a bit funny after that, but anyway, we've got these users, these built-in users, with some tenant information, which we're not going to talk about, but with some role information. So, for example, here, Alice is a user, a defined user. None of them have passwords. No point in having passwords. But Alice has the role admin, for example. So, with that in mind, why don't we go to here and say, let's sort of be a little bit more precise and say for accessing book costs, which have got, you know, we've got the important company information like markup and price for books. I'm going to say restrict, I'm going to grant read to admin. Okay. And I'll also, in fact, while we're here, let's say grant write. Oh, I've missed a comma there. To admin, grant right to finance. Okay. Admin, colon, thank you very much. Excellent. You can come again. So now, not only is the entire service restricted to users who have been able to successfully provide their identity, we're also now requiring, and this is not a tutorial about, you know, authentication, authorization, annotations, but we're now also saying, and by the way, in order to read this entity, you have to have the admin role. So there we go. Have we saved that? Let's save that. Let's go here. And now I'm going to curl localhost book costs, we get a 401 because we're authenticated. What's it? There's a user somewhere. Bob. Let's use Bob. He hasn't got admin, so let's try Bob. User Bob. Now, if you put a colon and then the password, then you have to type the password in, so that's fine. User Bob. Now this gives us a 403 forbidden, i.e. Bob, you have successfully identified yourself, but you haven't got the right role. Okay. Now, one of the other things is that, it's all well and good, but what if your organization doesn't have Alice, Bob, Eve, and Tom, and whatever they are? Well, of course, you can define your own. Now, for example, here, I've got in my back pocket, time's okay, work, projects, top tip, never create directories, admit, sorry, I've admitted them. Never create directories that are super long. CDS source.json to cdsrc.json. Let me show you that over here. bcds source. I've now added, I mean, check that out. That's crazy, that sort of nesting. But I've now added as a local extra user. Do we have Dave already? I can't remember. Anyway, Dave. Let's call it Dave with the role finance. So you can bring in and mock up your more realistic user and role and tenant information locally to the CAP project. So now I've got Dave with the finance role. Let's go to 3 here. I can now say, well, in fact, why don't we try it with Alice first? Let's try an update. Curl, clear, curl, minus X patch, minus D. Who does this on a daily basis? D price 9999. And ID 202, I think. Yeah, ID 202 for what was it? 202 or 201? 201. Well, let's change Jane Eyre. 207. Yeah, 207. There. What else do we need? Oh, we need a header, content type, application JSON. If we get an error, we'll fix it. So localhost 4004 main book costs. Oh, we don't need the ID there, do we? We need the ID here, don't we? 207. Go to the there. Thank goodness for VI mode in Bash. There we go. Perfect. Let's try that. Let's also have -I to see the headers. We get unauthorized. Let's try it with Alice. We get forbidden, but let's try it with Dave. I can spell Dave right. Date. 204, no content. Okay, so now we've actually managed to change the price of Jane Eyre to, a more realistic price. I'm sure you all agree. So we've got an affordance of SQLite changing as we go. We can manipulate it from the command line. We can load it with initial data and also sample data from CSVs and from JSON. We've got the super powerful CDS watch. We've got mocking of authorization. So basically, I think you might have noticed here. Where is it? Let's just zoom out again. Let's go to there and zoom in. You might have noticed at the top. No, let's look there at the top. There, the auth strategy by default is this mocked auth strategy. That's where these users are coming from. The mocked auth strategy is just the same as the basic auth strategy, which is where this implementation is, just with this extra data. Okay. Now, one more thing. Not only can you mock authorization, not only can you mock remote services, which we haven't shown today, we did it yesterday, but you can also, for example, mock eventing. In CAP, everything's asynchronous. In CAP, everything's a service. In CAP, everything's an event. Now, I've got something already here ready because I know I'm running out of time. This is available in a repo as well. This is actually in the CAPI documentation, in the documentation area relating to building microservices and using workspaces in NPM to have different independent projects like bookstore, reviews, bookshop, and so on. Okay, so we've got this structure here, which is too huge to show. Let's just show like that. We've got the bookshop, we've got bookstore, we've got data viewer, we've got reviews, we've got orders. All these are individual CAP applications. Now, in order to mock or have a local first messaging mechanism, CAP supports that, and it supports it in the form of, where's the package JSON? In the form of, for example, bookstore package JSON. Let's edit that. Where is it? Requires messaging. There we go. Messaging true. I mean, you know, we can't get simpler than that. I mean, true. You could also say file-based messaging. Okay. Now, what does file-based messaging mean? It means, let's close that. Let's just add this window over here. There is a file. We learned this yesterday as well. Local files in the user's local directory. List minus LA dot star. Oh, that didn't work very well, but let's do that. A dot star. We got all sorts of stuff. List A. There, that'll do. We got Git modules in there. Let's go into my home directory. That's why I can't find it. DJ list minus A. We've got .local.npm. Where's the rest of the stuff there? Let's have a look. Here we go. .cds REPL history. So that's my REPL history in the CDS REPL. .cds services.json. Some of us know about that because some of us are cool and were here yesterday. CDS message box. That is the file, which is sort of like the FIFO for eventing, file-based eventing. So if we say, for example, watch, run every few seconds, cat CDS message box. It's empty at the moment. Okay, so let's just watch that. Let's go down here, and over here we'll say, did I do there? 4, 5. Did I not do that? Where are we? Where are we? 3. Oh, 2. There, that's where. Okay, so if I say CDS watch reviews, start up the reviews service. Come on. That's running on 4005. So if I go to 4005, let's get rid of that. Local host 4005. I've got this little view application, and I can get a review, copy it down there, and submit the review. Now, if we were to look in the CDS definition, we will see the ability. There's an action where you can submit a view. Okay. But also there's the put, for example, but also an event is emitted. So there's an event defined, and the handler for that event emits that event. Sorry, the handler for that action emits that event. And because it's file-based messaging, look what's been written to the CDS message box file. Okay, so that's just sitting there now. We can consume that as well. So if we say CDS watch bookstore, the bookstore consumed. You can have a look at the bookstore information, the CDS definitions. You can have a look at the reviews definitions online in the CAPI, github.com/CAPI. It's a new organization. All the individual projects are there. 1 minute ago. I've been okay, fine. So watch what happens when we start up the bookstore. It will look in, or it will start wanting to consume messages, and because we're using the file-based messaging service, it grabs it from the CDS message box. And then, of course, once it's grabbed it, it removes it. So hopefully that thing at the top should disappear when we start this up. Okay, here, addressing use, I'm still running, but I can press enter and get a different port. There, it's consumed the message. And we can see here, received, average rating change, blah, 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 blah. So not only can we mock authentication, not only can we mock remote services, we can also mock, in a way, file-based messaging. In fact, you could even do in-process messaging as well, which we don't have time to show now. We have time. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, actually, no. What I want to do instead, or what it might be better to do instead, is stop there and see if anybody's got any questions, because this is not like a write-only type of event. This is about us, right? So, anybody got any questions, any comments? How many people are aware of any of these so far, any of these features? That's the wrong answer. Hopefully you're all aware of them now. Any comments, any questions? How many people use these features? Tell me a bit more.
So I want to do it. It's awesome. So we have very quick turnarounds on development. integrates really nice with the BTP services. So you have very fast results. You can one app to 30 minutes. The first version probably less than 5 if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it seamlessly integrates with everything. So application, validation. This agrees if you have the setup on BTP already with corporate identity provider, for example, then it's pretty straightforward to put your own apps into that.
Cool, cool. Thank you. I thought Conrad was being really kind and giving me more time. I've been working to. I've got to finish at 9:45.
Oh no!
Yes.
I'm thinking, okay, well, I will. So I can show, if you want to see it, I can show the why don't we look at the in-process eventing, okay? Because that is also really fascinating, and it will show us a little bit. It's a bit of a digression, but it will show us a little bit about what CAP is made of inside. So we do that? Yeah. Okay, let's do that. I didn't even wait for your answer, but I'm going to do it anyway. So if let's get rid of that and that and that. Yeah, we don't need that either. I can't believe I've just messed up the time. Anyway, right. So let's go to 4. Let's get. I just hate having too many windows open. There we go. There we go. There we go. Go, 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 go. Fine. So CDS REPL, a replace. Okay. We can create a service just like that. So we can say, for example, new CDS.service. In fact, let's do it one step at a time. I was going to do it all in one. Let's do it one step at a time. So we created a service. We have no handlers. So if we say .inspect serve depth equals 11, we can see that we don't have any initial handlers. Those are sort of the internal handlers. We don't have any before handlers, any on handlers, any after. In fact, if we were to look at if we ran the current thing, we could see here main service handlers. For those of you wondering what the hell is DJ looking for, because there's nothing there. If we look at the handlers for the main service, these are all the handlers. Actually, I've got time for digressing. So this basically is a list. Let me make it a bit smaller so we can see it all on one page, for example. There, okay. Ignore the underscore initial. We won't talk about those. Those are sort of internal, don't touch, internal. Just say internal. We've got the before handlers. We've got the on handlers, and we've got a potential space for after handlers. So CAP does everything for you out of the box, right? It gives you a complete CRUD plus Q service for RESTful services, for REST, for OData, for GraphQL, and so on. And that's what this handle CRUD requests handler is doing for us in the on phase. The on phase is do the thing. Of course, we've got different before phases that are built in as well. Authorization privileges. That's for example, the handler that kicked in when the service was being processed, or the services. We were making a request to the service that we'd annotated with the requires and the restrict. Okay. Anyway, these are the handlers that I was looking for, but these are not the handlers I am looking for. That's a reference to Star Trek or something, Star Wars. I don't know. Anyway, so if we look at serve.handlers, there are none because I've just created an empty service, right? So let's just have that there. I can say, for example, out of the way, it's getting in my way. I can say, for example, serve.on and give it a name. Give it a name of an event or of a thing, right? Of a message. So let's say sitMUC. And we want a handler. So we could say, for example, I mean, we could say console.log, but I mean, let's have a sort of x console.log got x. So now we've got a handler for an event, and I'm using the word event sort of lightly, called sitMUC. Okay, so now I could say serve.send, serve.emit. We're talking about events here, so let's emit an event called sit. Well, in fact, if I say emit an event called something like that. It's asynchronous, so we have to await it. Nothing happens because there's no handler set up to handle something called QQQQQ. However, if I were to change that message to sitMUC, and that's also provided with some actual a payload, let's say X is 42, or let's I don't want to use X, so it's confusing. Z is 42. We got object. Okay, fine. Got object. Let's have another handler. Let's have another handler to say let's just have console log after all. So now we get two outputs because we've got two handlers for sitMUC. One with that dot of object because I was whatever, but the other one we can see what we get, which is an event message. Okay, so this is in process messaging, and it's really cool because in the same way, yesterday, for example, in the code jam, we saw in process mocking as well. So not only can you mock externally, you can have external sort of reading and writing of events through the CDS message box, but you can also have in process eventing as well. And that's super interesting as well when you're building sort of microservices. The other thing that we get to look at when we are playing with this is the fact that there isn't really much difference between an event and a request. If I were to change that to serve.send, for example, what do you think is going to happen? Anybody? Same as before? Is that sort of same as before? I mean, thank you for answering. It's brilliant. It's correct, but it's also.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, right. Okay. So from the outputs, that's brilliant. Okay. And also thank you for your interaction. I love interaction. So from the outputs perspective, so sure. Let's have a look. Got sitMUC undefined. Serve.send that wasn't what I was expecting. Wait, serve.send. sitMUC undefined. Oh, I know why. Let me just do that again. Let's create a new service. Where are we? Could have just typed it in, couldn't I? Serve equals new CDS.service. Serve.on sitMUC. We'll just have console log. I was trying to be clever before with that thing there. So now we can say serve.send. No, serve.emit. We'll do the first thing first again. Serve.sitMUC x1, right? There, awaits. Get event message. But now this is back to where we were. Now, if I say serve.send, it's almost but not quite the same output. The difference is that events are asynchronous and requests are synchronous. Or send is a request and emit is an event. And the other difference is, how many people here were here at Recap? You might have seen this in my talk here. What I love to point out is that in handling an incoming request, we have this idea of an interceptor stack. So we have a stacked set of handlers to say, I'll handle this, but I will also let any other handlers handle this by calling the next function. If you've developed handlers before, you'll be aware of this next parameter, or this next argument, which is a pointer to a function you can call if you want to continue the interceptor chain or interceptor stack. You get that with the request type of thing, with asynchronous requests and responses, because it's up to you to decide when to break the chain. But when you're processing an event, every single handler is guaranteed to get access to that event, to do something. And that's why we have a dummy second argument, because it's not allowed not to call it. It gets called automatically. Anyway, it's 9:55. It's showing me the post-it note. So I'm going to stop here and apologize for thinking I had to finish at 9:45. That was completely my fault. It wasn't to do with Bjorn or anybody. But I hope that was interesting, and I hope you're going to investigate some of the CAP local first development features when you go home. Thanks very much.